One thing that we're keeping a very close eye on, how that affects this fixture here. And of course, don't forget on 5 Live, a little bit later, we're bringing you the second semi-final, which will be New Zealand against France. We're about to get underway then in the first Women's Rugby World Cup semi-final, England against Canada. It's Canada to get us underway through Maddie Grant. She kicks off towards the fast-hand side of the field, so England are going to be travelling from left to right in this first half. Canada now have the ball and England have knocked on. We're playing advantage now to Canada as they try to push out towards this near side wing. Corrigan can't quite get her hands to it, and it ends up in the end in the hands of McKinley Hunt. She runs it forward. Canada just inside of the England half, only by a couple of metres or so, and the white wall is trying to hold back the Canucks so far. Big long passes going out. Pat Quinn now, she just rides her body, just trying to get the extra metre, but Canada for the time being struggling to get across the gain line. They decide to put boot to ball, and it goes towards the backs. It's going to be pushed back down the park by Zoe Harrison. She sends it towards her opposite numbers. Maddie Grant of the University of Ottawa, she sends it back towards England. Bit of miscommunication there by England, and it looks like Emily Scarrett's knocked on the ball there. She's hugely frustrated, and we have a scrum to Canada. Kat.
Dream start for Canada to force an error off of England, off of the kickoff. They were then playing with real intent, getting the ball wide. As they'd kick back there, a bit of miscommunication, as you said, between Scarrett and Harrison, and actually balls were knocked on. 2 England errors within a minute of the game. Very, very unusual, but maybe shows the pressure that Canada are putting onto them.
Yeah, Canada have not lost one of their own scrums throughout this entire Rugby World Cup, and this is what we've been waiting for. If you love your rugby, if you love a bit of forward work, every set piece between these two sides is going to be a treat. So first scrum, and that is not moving at all. It's just been held solid by both sides. Long pass out the back then for the Canadians, who are trying to use the width of the field. We haven't seen so much of this. Waiting out there is Farries. Farries has it. Work here for Helena Rowland as Farries ends up cutting back on the inside. Canada approaching the England 22. We haven't seen them pressured like this early on in a match for a long, long time. Ball goes back then to Tessier. And they've lost about 10 metres here, the Canadians, who are now playing in the England half of the field between the 10 and the 22. A little bit of a crawl on the ground there by the Canadians. Referee lets that one go. It's Pelletier. She's got it on the floor. So Scrum has to quickly scurry back to her feet so she can actually get back in a position to release the forwards again. De Marchant, who's playing at the moment at Halifax Tars, has spent time, though, at Exeter. Still 0-0 if you're joining us here on BBC Radio 5 Live. We're bringing you semi-final action from the Rugby World Cup in Auckland. England against Canada, 0-0, 2.5 minutes on the clock as the Canadians have now worked through 7 phases and they're still on the English 22. The white wall is holding, but this is the first time they've really been tested to this extent throughout their whole World Cup campaign. It's taken to the semi-final, lost forward by Canada. England have it in the 22. Scarrett, under real pressure, has to sort of get a scuffed ball away, but there's a Canadian hand on it. You can tell how much quicker the Canadians are on the counter here, as in the end it comes to Allaire, who's from Quebec, so one of our French speakers out there. Knocked on again by Canada. This is really, I have to say, sloppy stuff from both sides. You can tell what it means to them both. Eventually it's going to be Rowland who sends it down the field, and it's being sucked up at the back once again by Allaire. I mean, Kat Merchant, just watching this alongside this ping pong we're watching, both sides are nervous.
They really are nervous, and that's where errors are creeping in. The kicking game for both teams, I think they're trying to relieve pressure, but how often, I mean, we don't see 6 kicks in a row like this. Yeah, it's been kicked back once again. Now it's going to be England who send it back through Harrison. She gets the bounce of the ball. It's still going inside the 22. The kick chases on through McDonald. She can't quite get her woman, but she slowed it down. It's going to be England who win this territory contest. They've pushed Canada all the way back into the 22. Have they got turnover ball as well? It's down on the floor. England want it. They think they've got it. They're still contesting it. It does come away. Cornborough there with the floor. Somehow Canada have it, but that was a real tussle, and Canada all of a sudden, from all of that possession, all of that territory, they're stuck in their 22 and they're desperate to get out. No surprises, they've slowed things down. Ball goes back to Grant once again. She doesn't find any kind of touch. She finds Abby Dow. Dow finds Rowland. Rowland with that little hitch kick that's almost sort of trademark. Here comes Scarrett with a bit between her teeth. She's got support on her outside through Hurd. Hurd manages to bust through one tackle, but strong work by the England centres there. They'll be delighted to get their hands on the ball. Here comes Packer, Marley Packer. So significant as she has been. A hat-trick last week in the quarter-final. Matthews.
Alex Matthews, the woman who's held on to that number 6 shirt. England building something here. What they'd give for a little bit of set piece if that opportunity was given. Infante pushes out towards the far side. Harrison, she's been dragged down to the turf. So they're still about 10 metres out from the Canadian line, as this time it's taken forward through the catch and hunter. There's no one there for England. Canada could have contested it. They just almost let England have it. Mistake here by England. Has it gone forward? Yes, it has. We're going to restart with an England scrum. I mean, this is harem-scarum stuff. Nerves are high.
Nerves are high, but the intensity is as well. Both teams are really throwing everything at that. That was a beautiful offload from Scarrett to get it wide to Hurd there. Really beautiful play. And then, just a little bit scrappy, but both defences are coming up so hard and fast.
Okay, so it's Canada 0, England 0. 5 minutes on the clock in this Rugby World Cup semi-final, coming to you live from Auckland in New Zealand. Now, the first scrum didn't move an inch. We're about to get our second one. Obviously, Kat, you played on the wing. You won the World Cup with England. You know all about the scrums. So talk us through how important this is.
Oh, so important. If you get a good platform for your side, you get good, nice quick ball for your backline and lots of space. So the fact the scrum didn't move at all just shows how solid both these packs are.
And really an interesting decision there. They're packed down. They're going to reset. Let's just listen into the referee.
Here we go, girls.
Okay, it was just a hold in space for the bind, so that's great. But it was interesting there. Helena Rowland was standing really deep in the field. All of a sudden, they've seen how Canada have lined up, and they've run back down. It's because I don't think England were actually expecting to have the ball. It's actually their scrum, 10 metres out from the Canadian line.
Yeah, I think Rowland was dropped back for a kick and then realised actually it's their ball.
Yeah.
So ran across, because it did look like Packer had knocked it on, but I think there was an initial knock on by Canada.
Big push here from England, and Sarah Hunter does what she does, holds it in, so they've got the advantage. They've gone towards this near side. There's too many Canadian shirts there. Helena Rowland is just dancing around players. She's refusing to be tackled. Needs to pass it out. Does in the end to Scarrett. Scarrett with the big fend. She's going to be pushed into touch. It's going to be a line out, but they'll bring it back for the penalty right in front of the post. Now this is interesting because Infante is running. She wants to take it quickly. I don't know if her team are going to let her. Surely they'll kick a penalty here.
Yeah, you would assume, well, anything other than a quick tap there. They could either go for 3 points, they could go for the scrum as they've just got a scrum penalty, they could kick for line outs because we know just how great they are, which is what they've decided to do here, which isn't actually that surprising. Most teams I think would go for the scrum, but England, having scored so many of their tries from a line out, they've backed themselves in this position and they're going for it. 5 metres out.
I'm still old school in that I'm like, it's a semi-final. Kick your penalties,
Yeah.
women. Okay, Canada 0,
scrum.
England 0, 7 minutes on the clock. We've got a line out. The specialist error for both these sides. Canada don't even contest in the air. They prepare to stop them all. But it's moving from England. It's moving strongly. Round the corner it goes. It looks like it's over. Try given. England are ahead in the World Cup semi-final against Canada. It's now England 5, Canada 0.
They just show their absolute class. We've spoken so much about how much the strength of their line out is, and I think that was a message as well. Early on they could have taken points, could have gone for a scrum. Actually they went for the line out, which wasn't that far out. They managed to get it over. They are just a machine when they do this. They work so well. Canada getting numbers in but just cannot stop them.
Let's quickly head back to the studio. Katie Daly-McLean, you love a try from a driving maul.
I do, but to be fair, credit where credit's due. That was a lovely little shift, wasn't it? We've seen England go up in the line out, Abby Ward catch it, bring it down. In that instance, Ward goes up, catches it, and just slightly shifts that ball to Zoe Allcroft, which makes it really, really hard for Canada to defend. And to be fair, we talk about options, we want variation. Yes, I want to see the backs play, but that was a nice little line out variation. So one of Abby Ward's very... one of our menu, shall we say.
Yes, we've been talking about that, of course, on the Rugby Union Daily podcast. Do go to BBC Sounds and download. We caught up with Abby Ward in the camp this week, myself and Kat, and we talked about the line-out options, and she says she describes it as the line-out menu. And when we discussed how many options are on the menu, she says it changes all the time. They even have some specials. Maybe that was one of them. Right, here comes Emily Scarrett with the conversion. Oh, she's brought her kicking boots this afternoon. And that, again, is a significant one. If I just bring you in again there, Katie, because you talked a lot in the build-up to tournaments, how players have to get used to the ball. But Emily Scarrett in particular, you've always said when it comes to the big games, she kicks them from anywhere.
And kicker.
Jump in.
There you go. We'll go to Kat. There we go.
I'll talk about kicking instead.
Your favourite Kat.
What does she know? But really important. And Scarrett rarely misses in big games.
Okay, so restart then from Canada. They've kicked a lot deeper, they did, from the start of the match. If you're just joining us, it's England 7, Canada 0 as we approach 10 minutes in this World Cup semi-final. Helena Rowland sends it high into the Auckland sky, and it comes down this time to Maddie Grant. Grant, winning her 13th cap today, is happy to send it back, but she hasn't got the distance on the ball that Rowland had. And Rowland, she's got her trademark socks down around her ankles. She's refusing to be tackled this afternoon. She's taking a couple of defenders with her wherever she goes, and that's really helping England, just getting those extra couple of metres. Byrne manages to get it away to Hurd. Captain Hunter managed to shrug off. Here comes Abby Ward, the line-out guru, happy to work some hard yards into her portfolio. Kick down the field comes from Harrison, who's, I thought if that bounce of the ball had gone a different direction, could have been 50-22 there. It's been ended up going in the other direction, and it's gone over the line there. No interest from Canada to dot it down. In the end, I think it's O'Leary. She decides that she's going to send it back. It's a bobbling ball. Scarrett under pressure. Still pressure. England have let that ball bounce one too many times. Canada have it, and they deserve it as well. On the halfway. Better play there from the women in the black shirts of Canada. Popped off once again. Still Canadian ball on the halfway line, and this is where Canada really need to take their opportunities and make some ground. Charge down ball. Tessier struggling a little bit with her boot at the moment. England are reading it really well, and Hurd has it back for England. The Red Roses on the charge once again. Really interesting there. We get to see Zoe Harrison running the ball into contact. She's not always one that is actually on her job to-do list when it comes to playing for England, and in the end we get to see the high boot come in from Scarrett and really test that back three. Great take in the air though by O'Leary. She almost does a knee slide to take it, but the problem is the kicks from England have got more distance on them. So when it comes to this kicking battle, England are just edging every time, about 5 or 10 metres further down the field. That looked like a forward pass. It's gone out of play on the far side. Our referee, Amy Barrett-Theron, is probably going to give the option.
And it's exactly that with the kicking battle. Canada are kicking in the right areas, they're kicking at the right time, but they're a good 10 metres short on each kick than England are. So England, even with the same amount of kicks, are just working their way up the pitch. But another error, unforced error there with the forward pass and into touch. I know Canada they do get an opportunity, but still they're deep in their own half, which they're likely to kick it, so they're just not quite getting the edge here.
So it's a Canadian line out on the far side of the field, just waiting for the ball to come in. It does in the end, but it's not clean from Canada, and that will hugely frustrate them. They will be so annoyed. Their line out has been so strong throughout this competition. It's almost like England arriving has just completely disrupted them, and they will be so frustrated of what they're playing. They can go toe-to-toe with England, but at the moment it's just not coming for them. Taken forward by Aldcroft, the current World Player of the Year. What a handoff coming in there by Abby Dow. You would have no idea at all that she was lying on the floor screaming in pain with a leg that was broken in about 3 places only in the spring, and here she is in the New Zealand spring, bouncing along and bouncing off Canadian women at the same time. England 7, Canada 0, 13 minutes on the clock, and it's the women in white, the Red Roses, who are working their way through the phases, 8 of them now in total, as they go back to the Aldcroft option. You always know it's Aldcroft who's on the ball because she likes to try and keep very low to the ground, and she's so tall. She's not disguising anyone, but she's doing really well to keep that low centre of gravity.
Skulk into contact.
Skulk, I like that. It's a really good way of explaining how you spot her out there. Right then, here comes the little kick through from Harrison, gathered by Canada, but they're under pressure now. England need to make their tackles, and still going there was O'Leary. Nobody seemed to want to tackle her, and they've stacked that far side wing. They place it backwards, and Canada, they're in a real pickle here. This will be the first time they've been tested like this. They've had some good games against the USA in the pool stage. They met them again in the quarterfinals, but they've reasonably had it all their own way throughout this World Cup, but they're just finding it hard to get their momentum with the England defence being so much in their faces. Here's Rowland running it forward over the 22. No one is tackling Rowland. Here comes Dow now. Dow one-on-one on the far side. Oh, what a finish from Abby Dow. What a finish. That is why Simon Middleton gave her the time to come back from that leg break for finishes just like that. 2 tries for England. They now lead 12-0 in the Rugby World Cup semi-final.
And that really was a fantastic finish as well. We know she's a prolific try scorer, but that one, Rowland does so well just to hold on to the ball just for enough time to give Abby the room. Now, that isn't an easy finish either. She does have a player coming across, so she's got to stay strong. She's got to angle her body in. She even lifts her feet just in case she's close enough to touch, but she's well in enough there to get the try.
Let's get the thoughts of Katie Daly-McLean on that finish.
Yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenal finish, but I just want to take you back to why this is happening. For Canada, we've talked about their kicking game, but for me, they're kicking in the wrong areas of the pitch. They're kicking from the middle. We know they don't have the same distance as Zoe Harrison, Emily Scarrett, Helena Rowlands, and it's just causing them a lot of pressure. For me, Canada need to work their way to the touchlines and kick out. Otherwise, Helena Rowland is going to have a field day. She's got loads of time, loads of space, and we know she is so elusive on the ball. And what a finish by Abby Dow, like Kat said, feet up, nice and low. Going to be very, very hard for Canada to bundle into touch there.
Well, it's another tricky kick here for Emily Scarrett on this near side. But before we finish on that Abby Dow try-cat, how would you practice that in training to get that low and safe when you're that close to the line?
It would just be in games and any live situation. With good defence, they're going to track across the touchline, so you're going to have to get yourself close so you don't get bundled into touch. But the feet up thing, really important, so she doesn't graze the touchline. But it's just class finishes, and you do get them in the game where they just know how to finish from wherever they are on the pitch.
Okay. Emily Scarrett doesn't get that conversion. It was about a metre away from this near side touch. It actually bounced off the post. And I'm not saying this because it was an England kick, but I have to say both sides at the moment, they're slightly riding the wind. And we're just trying to figure out, I think, who's got the wind at the moment. So it's quite swirly, I have to say, around Eden Park at the moment as I look up and desperately try and find a flag that's going at the moment. So we'll confirm that once we've actually figured out who's got that momentum behind them. But from the restart, England have it, and they're just outside of their own 22 going forward. Packer with the ball down on the ground at the moment. If they can get it out towards the left, they've got an overlap as the ball comes through Zoe Harrison. She gets the bounce, and there's nothing Canada can do about that. I mean, Zoe Harrison, she had 2 brilliant games against New Zealand last autumn, and then she sort of went quiet for a while, but she's come back with a bang this tournament.
I think she's a real confidence player, because she's got those experienced players around her, but it just seems like, there's a bit of controversy seems on the pitch, so it distracted me there. There's a lot of things going on, but yeah, she grows into the style of her play. You can tell she's like real commander in there, telling everyone what to do.
Oh, the Canadian line-out is faltering at just the wrong moment in this World Cup. They went long against the back, couldn't take, and England have it again. Harrison gathers, pushes out to Rowland. On the far side, McDonald can't take. She knocks it on. So they're going to restart with a scrum there. That big noise that just distracted you, Kat, is because where they had the line out down by the pitch, there is like a big sort of like group of about 20 to 30 Canadians who are all sat together, and as soon as that line out came, they all stood up in unison to start shouting. And I know it's the Canadian supporters, not just because they're wearing the red shirts of Canada, although they're wearing black today, but there's a Mountie sat down there as well. And I don't know if it's a real Mountie or if it's a costume, but it looks great.
Well, I thought something was kicking off in the game, which is why I was like, what have I missed there? But no, it's the fans kicking off and making all the noise.
Yeah, we can see loads of flags of Canada around the ground at the moment. A lot of the England fans are actually in the stand Kat and I are in the south stand at Eden Park, and a few panes of glass to the left. There's actually a lot of what you would describe as the England old girls who are here from 91 and 94. I've seen the likes of Emma Mitchell, Jill Burns. They're all sat down on the left over there at the moment as Canada get a breakaway from that line out. This is better from them, still going forward. They decide to hack on the ball. Foot chasing on it at the moment. Is this going to be a chance for Canada to go over? Yes, they finished it. Karen Paquin scores for Canada. They are in the game. What a moment for them. They had an opportunity, they took it. This is semi-final rugby. Canada have turned up. It's now Canada 5, England 12.
They really turned on the gas there as well. It was a fantastic first run, but look at that footwork. She's done McDonald there. Manages to get in behind, that little nudge. Katie mentioned it earlier about kicking in the right areas, and that is the right area. You're attacking, you're in behind. The footwork, the scanning, great footwork there. Really gets the defender off. Does a lovely kick back inside for the chase, and what a foot race there to get down onto that ball.
This has just made this semi-final so much more interesting. Katie Daly-McLean.
Hasn't it just? And what a try. It was from Karen Paquin, which we saw her do exactly very similar against the USA, just chasing, working hard. But like Kat said, what a lovely little footwork from the Canadian 9 there. And I think for me, it came from set piece, didn't it? You talked about that scrum being very solid, no movement in it, and it just allowed Canada to break. And I think what that did do there is shows England you cannot switch off. Like we've talked about, they've only really had that France game where it was real competition. Canada are here to play, and they're not going to be marshalled about. They're not going to be dominated by this England side.
And they're not going to get the extras, unfortunately, Canada there, because Sophie de Coudy's just put that one across the face of the goal. So the score is England 12, Canada 5. 20 minutes gone now in this Women's Rugby World Cup semi-final, coming to you live on 5 Live from Auckland. And what was a little bit of a procession in the opening stages have just proved if you give Canada a sniff, they're here. They want to get to that final.
Yeah, because that wasn't a position where you'd necessarily assume any team would score. That was a good run, good footwork, lovely kick and fantastic chase.
Oh, and that's gone straight out from the restart there. So England, it was Zoe Harrison. That's the first mistake she's made so far in this fixture. So they're going to come back. They'll get an option of if they want a line out on the halfway or a scrum, and they've gone for the scrum, Canada.
And that's a good option as well for them because their scrum's been going well. They've just scored off a scrum. They want to tie people into their space out wide, but you can see it's lifted them as well. That score was so important because it shows that this England team, they're not just a machine that cannot be scored against. They are vulnerable at times, like any team would be, and Canada just really can take confidence from that.
Really exciting moment for me in my very sad career of spending a lot of time at rugby stadiums is worth saying that someone actually threw the ball back onto the pitch and it hit Spider Cam. Because let's face it, we all want to see Spider Cam hit sometimes. It's always in the way and always seems to avoid contact. But yes, it finally got smacked by a ball coming back onto the field.
Didn't realise you hated Spider Cam so much.
No. It's just, it's there. It's a target, isn't it? How does it not get hit more often as the ball finally comes away from the scrum? And here comes Canada. Oh, they're here to play. This is great to see in this semi-final. Anyone who thought this was a procession for England, you are so wrong. The Canadians keeping the ball alive, almost too excited. It's a knock-on from Canada, then a knock-on from England, and maybe everyone's just getting a little bit giddy out there, and both sides just need to calm, play their own game.
I'll tell you who's impressed me is Alyssa O'Leary, the Canadian fullback, is fantastic. She really just goes at it at a different kind of pace, and she's always got that footwork because these England girls are big hitters. You don't want to get hit square on by them, so she gets them off their toes, a little bit off balance, gets in behind, and then the most important part about it is she scans for the offloads to get in behind.
Okay, there's a little bit of a pause here because Sophie de Coudy's just having her leg re-strapped before they get back underway, and they're about to pack down in the front rows. So a reminder, it's DeMarchant, Tutosi and Menin for Canada, up against Cornborough, Cocaine and Byrne. The woman we were expecting to see today playing loose head for England was Hannah Bottoman. She's picked up a knock. We understand she actually left training with a little bit of ice on her leg on Thursday. That will be so disappointing for her.
Oh, she'll be really gutted because whilst you never try and think about the final before you get there, as an injured player or a reserve or someone not in the squad, it's very difficult to think about how you would get into a side that plays well in a semi-final.
Yeah, and did actually also see that Hannah Bottoman was one of a number of players, including Emily Scarrett and I think Sarah Byrne. They all went out fishing on a big fishing trip. I saw a lot of pictures on their socials of large fish being caught out in the ocean. That I'll leave you to think about for now, but that's a great kick we've just seen from England as it's come away. The Canadians are trying to push it back, but that has been pushed all the way down to the Canadian 22-metre line. And I have to say, England do have a bit of the wind. It is going a little bit straight across the field, but it's still in England's favour at the moment compared to Canada. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the second half as well.
Yeah, and ended up being a 50-22, so England do get to have it. Canadian players were pretty confident it was just shy of that line, and I think they were hoping, but touched just right in line with it. And sadly for Canada, let them know it was a 50-22.
So England get the put in at the liner. Amy Cocaine, she was 12 from 12 in those awful conditions in the quarterfinals. She manages to keep her arrows clean, taken forward this time by Packer. Infante resets, goes again, this time through Aldcroft. England inside of the Canadian 22, hunting for a third try in this semi-final. It's Rowland who cuts back inside. She's been a lot busier, Helena Rowland, than we've seen in previous fixtures playing from that full-back position. There's some real hard hits going on between these two sides now. They're both trying to work each other really hard and try and tire each other out. And I have to say, it is quite a hot day today here in Auckland. It's worth bearing that in mind in these conditions. Such bright sunshine, no cloud cover whatsoever. Although it says it's about 21 degrees on the clock, on the temperature gauge at the moment, it probably feels a lot worse than that down at pitch side as it's taken forward through Cornborough. England slightly lateral for the time being. That won't bother them. They're used to being in these situations and just waiting to take their chances. This time through Hunter, pushed out towards the near side. Matthews can't take, but she doesn't touch it, so Dow goes in for that big fend. She might look deceptively small at times, Abby Dow, for a wing, that is. She's not a small woman at all, but perhaps for a wing. But blimey, she's so strong in how she can just hold those women off. And she's managed to get England another 5 metres in the next phase of play. They're now 6 metres out from the Canadian line. There goes the whistle. There's the penalty for England. That is why they are happy to go through the phases.
Yeah, and really important they do there as well. They don't need to do anything crazy. They know if they can put together 10, 15 phases under this amount of pressure, they're either going to score or they're going to get a penalty. And they've gone same thing again. They're going for the line out. Very similar position from the penalty earlier when they chose to do the same, where you were thinking points, I was thinking scrum. They've gone for that line out again, and why wouldn't they? Because it worked so well before. What I want to know now is what Canada do. Last time they stood off it and then tried to stop the drive, but do they go up and pressure the throw? I don't think they will, but an option they could look at.
England 12, Canada 5. Oh, they do try and change the playbook. It's Tatiana Kurd who manages to come through. So there's no line-out drive here. They're just going to try and stretch Canada. It's Ward. Has she got it down? Hey, it looks like it's been held up. Now, Abby Ward is there shaking her head. I don't know if she thinks she got it, but I think that was just great work from Canada. Really interesting option from England. I think it's very apt, if we can, just head to Katie Daly-McLean in the studio here as we just wait for Canada to take that goal line drop, because Katie, England did just decide there not to go for the line out drive. Hasn't worked out for them.
Of all the things I wanted to see, they're the ones you want them to convert. Yeah, obviously decided not to. Nice little motion, but I think it's interesting, isn't it? The way that they look like they're going to create a drive and then playing from it, and that's what we want. We want a little bit more variation from England.
Well, from that goal line drop, we now see England push back to outside of the 22. So that's one of the very few 22 penetrations we see from England where they've come away from nothing. They're going to have to try and do something. Huge hit coming in there. What a tackle there by McKinley Hunt. Plays her rugby at Exeter. England knock on the ball and they'll come back for a scrum. Take a bow, McKinley Hunt.
Oh, absolutely. We spoke about when you steal a line out off someone and how that can feel good, and we talk about scoring tries, but actually putting a hit in that's so big, you get them to drop the ball. That's huge, and a huge boost for her team as well, because England were really starting to build with momentum there, and that one just has swung it now.
Okay, well, they're just going to pat back down. I'm very apt that I've got Kat Murch and also Katie Daly-McLean in studio today, because England against Canada, the last time they actually met at a Rugby World Cup was the 2014 final in Paris, where England came away winners. It was 21-9 on that day. I mean, happy memories for you, I'm sure, Kat, but it was an incredible test match.
Yeah, and we knew they'd come at us and they'd throw everything they had as well, and it was a really tough game. You come away from some games, especially on the wing, you can feel quite fresh sometimes. That game I did not. I felt fully battered. I've been hit so many times, and we said it before, they're just so physical, and you know when you play them.
Katie, obviously your overbiding memory will be lifting the trophy that day, but what do you remember of the game itself?
I just remember how tight it was. You know, that game was within probably about 3-4 points until about 65 minutes. They kicked a penalty, and then Emily Scarrett goes and scores that iconic try. But yeah, it was a much closer affair, and I can just remember thinking, I really we need to win this. We need to score some points, and once Emily obviously scored that try, just the relief.
I'm sure, well, I can't relate to the feeling at all, but I'm sure for you guys it must have been a huge relief after the build-up to that final. Right then, we're bringing you a semi-final here of the 2021 Rugby World Cup in New Zealand, being played in 2022. Of course, it was delayed by a year due to COVID. If you're just joining us on 5 Live, it's England 12, Canada 5. The ball has been kicked long by Canada down into English territory, and the Red Roses are trying to work their way out of their own half. They're playing between their own 10 and 22, taken forward by Sarah Byrne, the Bristol prop. as it's curved by this time. Harrison gets charged down. Scarrett now gets it. She sends it high into the air. Has to put a little bit more height on it to get it away. Perhaps not the length she'd like on the ball. This time we get to see Paige Farries, who's been playing rugby at Worcester in the Premier 15s more recently, and in the end Harrison's seen enough, because she just sends a nice short one towards this side, and that's perhaps a result ultimately of Harrison knowing that there's a lot of Canadian hands are getting closer to that ball.
A nice short one's generous. I think she sliced it.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I think she sliced it a bit. She would have wanted a little bit more on that one, but does relieve the pressure. And actually, Canada were starting to build. They were a lot around them. They just had one charged down. So actually, any kick making touch is far better than one that's charged down.
England 12, Canada 5. 28 minutes on the clock. Waiting for the ball to come in by Emily Tuttosi. The ex-Chiefs player. Oh, Canada's line out. I mean, they've come away with the ball, but it is certainly not working the way that they would like in this semi-final.
Considering how well it has been.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible that they seem to really be faltering at the set piece. What has been pretty immaculate so far throughout this tournament at just the wrong time. Tuttosi with the pass out. Really nice one then. Ends up in the hands of De Goody. Ward brings her down to the ground. Canada going forward inside of the England half, between the 10 and the 22. Hands on the ball this time by De Marchant, the third most capped Canadian player of all time today, as she wins her 43rd cap. Still Canadian ball, still lateral, still not getting into the 22 just yet. They've got their one try, Canada, as Tessier just changes direction, but Tessier there, I think, did she? Oh, there was something by Black. I didn't quite hear the referee.
Neck roll, I think she said.
Okay, neck roll is at the...
So a neck roll by Black, penalty.
Okay, that's quite a long way back. They're coming back for that decision. So it's been called in by our television match official. Net roll is when you are in the ruck and someone basically comes over the top of you and drags you sideways out. It's not at all safe, and it's actually lower limb injuries is the problem that actually tends to cause. So it's the referee that's picked up on it. It's I'm just seeing it now, the replay on the big screen. It was actually Courtney Holtkamp who caused that on one of the England players. So called in late by the TMO, but good it's been called.
Yeah, really good it's been called, and there is so much on the clear and the safety of the player, especially when I think it was Packer on the ball there that happened to. She's so good at jackling that actually to get rid of her they did it illegally, whereas you've just got to go low, you've got to do it safely and clear out straight.
Yeah, if anyone follows the men's rugby closely, you remember that it was a neck roll that caused a very serious injury to Jack Willis in the Six Nations back in 2021. So World Rugby desperate to try and stamp that one out so we don't see those kind of injuries ever again. Right then, ball in the middle of the park. It's Canadian ball. It was England who kicked it down, but it is Canada who are now trying to come away with after England have missed their touch. Big pressure coming in there on Justine Pelletier, the scrum half. She's stuck at the bottom at the moment of ruck, right in the middle of the field, and it's Tuttosi, the hooker, who's having to go in and get it out. De Goody gets it moving out towards the far side. This is nice from Canada. They've got numbers out there, but they're going to kick that ball straight to Abby Dow, who calls the mark and says thank you very much. I mean, that's just not great decision making, not great selection of what they're going to do.
No, so if you want to kick it when you've gone out that wide and you've gone round the outside, you have to grubber it. You can't do that big up and under, because it's just so easy to then call the mark. So maybe a bit of naivety there, but yeah, got to keep it on the floor, long to chase if indeed you are going to kick it. I think they had enough numbers that they've got round the outside. I don't actually think she needed to kick it here. She's got back inside. There's two players that she could have passed to.
Well, as a result, England have kicked it down the field, and Canada, they're back on the halfway line. They just cannot at the moment build up enough phases to really penetrate into that English 22. They've got their try, but it's England who've got two of them. England 12, Canada 5 as we close in on that half-time whistle. 8 minutes left to travel until we get there, and here comes the drive from Canada. Finally they managed to win one of their own line-outs, which have been a real mess so far throughout this first half. I can imagine what their French coach Kevin Rouet is going to be saying to them at half-time, because that's going to be a big talking point as it collapses down to the floor. We've got advantage here for Canada. So the referees deemed that England have taken down the maul illegally. England thought they'd managed to stop it and they're frustrated, but it's Canada who get the penalty.
much smarter in the line out as well. It was much cleaner with the throw, the execution of the lift, really nice to the back. They sorted it out. They did get that more moving, and if it comes down quickly, it will always look like it's been pulled down. So Canada, a big win from that one. We knew both these teams are very proud of their driven line out, so Canada will be really pleased with they won't be pleased with that kick, however. It's only got about 10 metres.
It has, and I was just watching the flag there from the touch judge on the far side. You can see the wind is really against Canada at the moment. It is blowing quite hard out there. It'll be really interesting to see how that changes in the second half when England have to kick into the wind. But yeah, so not made a huge amount of ground there, Canada. Their line out is just inside of the England 10-metre line. Abby Wall goes up trying to disrupt there. She hasn't quite got a hands of ball. This is good from Canada. They've made about 5 metres. Great more work from them. England need to stop this because it's still moving. It's there at the back. Canada just recycling a few bodies out the back. They've got the penalty advantage as well. England have deemed to do that illegally. So they've got a penalty coming. This is great from Canada. Wonderful work from them. They've made a good sort of 15, 16 metres. It's still moving. It eventually collapses down to the turf, but penalty advantage. They've got a free shot if they use it quickly. They could have used it a bit earlier when they've had a few more bodies sucked in. Here it comes down the line, bit of a miscommunication. Corrigan's not going to do much with that. It just sort of bounces backwards down the field. They'll come back, and this is a strong position for Canada. Their penalty now is just inside of the English 22. What do you reckon, a line out coming?
You've got to say it, 2 penalties against England in a row from the line out. You would think logically they would go. Now it is potentially close enough for points, but as you said, with wind against them, maybe not going for that. But you know, their scrum is solid, but I think really here, line out, they've got to be thinking.
Sarah Hunter has been asked by the referee to go and have a word with her players, and it's great captaincy work because she has brought them all in, she's calmed them all down. She said, get your game faces on. We've got to try to defend here.
Well, they're a proud pack. They're known for dominating lineouts, and at the minute they're getting owned, and they went backwards and gave the penalties away. So they're going to want to sort that and fix that as a squad.
Oh, it's going to get a bit exciting here, everybody. It is England 12, Canada 5. Canada have a 5-metre line out. Remember, Canada, the line out has been so strong throughout this World Cup. England think they've owned this. Canada thinks so too. Goes high into the air. De Goody has it. And England, they have just formed a V to slow this down, but it's turning from Canada. England needs to be really careful. They're going to try and push this into touch if they can. Canada will have to release players because they've been warned to use it. They do release them in the end. Pelletier manages to come back and away. She's being held so far by Infante. Good work by the English scrum half. Down on the floor. They're going to have to work the phases now. This time work round the corner by Menon, the tight head prop. Still Canadian ball. They're getting closer. Packer puts her body on the line. Make sure she isn't in the way. This is really good from Canada. Pick and go game. They're 2 metres short of the line. Canada sniffing for a second try. If they get this, then the conversion, they can level in the World Cup semi-final. Still Canadian ball. The forwards are lining up to take it. White shirts want to suck them up and give them absolutely nothing. Waiting at the base once again. They're going to try and whip it out wide. Yes, they do. It's going to be over the line. Canada go over for their second. Alicia Corrigan of Saracens. Oh, this is getting excited in the World Cup semi-final. Canada 10, England 12.
They are winning. They are just going ahead with this because of their forward play. What they did so many pick and goes that they had to tie that English defence in. England gave away another penalty, so Canada were playing with advantage, and instead of hold on tight to it, they move it wide, and a really nice loopy pass over the top, actually cutting out the last English defender. And Corrigan can't believe it. She's so happy, pumping her fist in the air there with that try. But this Canada team means business, and England really need to have a word with themselves here if they're to stay in this semi.
Katie Daly-McLean back in studio. Your thoughts?
I definitely wasn't expecting this. Fair play to Canada. They've definitely showed up, like you guys talked about at the beginning. That opening 15-20 minutes was a bit kind of edgy from both sides, but Canada have settled, and I think, to be honest, going in at half time, they will be the happier side. You have talked about the wind, and these winds are kind of like two-sided winds, and at the moment England have it and they're using it, but they need to start ticking that scoreboard over. Canada, for me, are kicking a little bit naively, but I mean, to kick that naively and potentially be in a 12-all game will be a much happier side.
And I tell you what, they're going to be really happy now because Sophie de Goody's slotted that conversion. What a score. What a score we have at the moment in this Rugby World Cup semi-final. England 12, Canada 12. It is all level. We've still got 4 minutes to go until the break. How badly do England want to score, Cat Merchant?
Oh, England will want to come straight back into this, because for the last 10 minutes it has been all about Canada. England won't want to go in having that last thing been about Canada.
Right then, ball comes down, manages to go to the fly half. Tessier of Canada, gathered in the end this time by Rowland. Rowland runs it over the halfway line. She's still going, Rowland. Nice bit of footwork. Can she get the pass away to Cocaine? Yes, she can. Cocaine approaching the 22-metre line. There's a Canada player lying over the top. Referee says play on. This time it goes to Ward. This is strong hands from England, are still going. Tatiana Hurd has it. It's been lost backwards. Referee says it's been knocked on. Canada will get the scrum. Still plenty of time to play until the half-time. And Amy Cocaine just receiving a little bit of treatment, so there will be a pause here because they can't scrum down just yet.
Rowland, for me, there just does so well for her team. She's not necessarily naturally a fullback, but what she does do when she gets the ball in her hand is she will always have a go. So she was using footwork there, getting in behind, but most importantly manages to get the offload away as well. But we're just getting close up to Simon Middleton, head coach out there, and he's not looking too happy, understandably.
Okay, so I think Amy Cocaine actually just got a bit of a knock from one of her players who's coming in to try and cover her. There's no sign of Lark Davis warming up at the moment down on the touch side, so they will just wait for Amy Cocaine to make her way over to the scrum. And again, England will be very happy with moments like that just to slow things down, because it's when it gets a little bit giddy and exciting that things can go terribly wrong, whilst when you've got the time to think clearly, they'll be a lot happier.
Well, you mentioned there, the atmosphere that England generally thrive off, and they are calm, they are composed, they'll put phases together. Canada thrive off of intensity, let's go girls, they G each other up. So actually, absolutely right, just taking a moment to breathe for England, a really clever tactic for them.
Canada 12, England 12, 37 minutes on the clock. Rugby World Cup semi-final in Auckland. The scrum goes down. They're just going to reset themselves again. It's a Canadian scrum. Worth mentioning that front row of Canada, all from Exeter, have played some time there as they get ready to pat back down again.
And I'm just looking at the crowds here as well. It is really starting to build in here. People are getting caught up in this game as well. A lot of people will be coming for the New Zealand one later for the home crowd. But I think if you'd have said 12 all at half-time in this England-Canada game, not many people would have called it.
Okay, so the ball is in this time, and that is being shoved by England, and Canada are going backwards. They managed to get it out quickly before any damage is done, but they're being pushed back inside of their own half. Sarah Hunter, the England captain, stepping up there, making sure Canada did not get anywhere with the ball. This time it goes into the hands of Holtkamp. Plays a rugby for the Red Deer Titans, a real star in the making. A lot been made of her work at this World Cup as well. Comes back in the end. High kick from Maddie Grant. Underneath it on the far side is Claudia McDonald. She gets a poor pass away to Rowland, but Rowland manages it well. Big pass out wide. It's going to bounce the ball. Here comes Scarrett. It's bounced really well for England, and it's Scarrett who manages to bounce off Canadian players. She makes 20 metres. They need it quickly on the near side. Comes away this time through Harrison. More bodies required because Canada are over the top of that. Somehow England hold on to their ball. Infante now manages to find Aldcroft. She's down on the floor. 10 metres to go to the Canadian line. England. Byrne goes into contact. That looked like a high hit. Referee says play. I'm not sure if they're going to review that one. And Infante knows just to take her time on things. Here comes Hunter. 6 metres to go to the Canadian line. It's all level at the moment in the World Cup semi-final, and the penalty comes England's way. They take their time. They get it. Big decision here for England, surely.
Surely points now. 12 all. You want to go with points. It's really important they come away with something from this going into the changing rooms at half-time.
And they are going to go for the posts. Things are changing. They want to go in. It's as if you've played in a World Cup semi-final before, Kat. Yeah. My goodness. Right then, it is getting a little bit exciting out there. And there's also a doctor who's come onto the field now who's having a little bit of a check of Sarah Byrne. We did see her take quite a high hit, didn't we? Yeah,
it did look high at the time from our angle here. But they've got the people on the sidelines. They'll have everybody looking, so they'll just be checking for safety for her.
And Emily Scarrett is just taking the slowest walk in the world ever physically possible to go and line up this penalty. course, she's the Loughborough outside centre, former World Player of the Year. She's had a reasonably quiet World Cup, and part of that is just how England have played.
Yeah, well, if you think that it was, I think you said it was 24 of the tries are scored by the forwards. So if you're not getting the ball that often out in the back line, the problem is when you do get it, you're not as switched on as maybe you would be if you got it more regularly.
Well, you heard the cheer, you heard the hooter. Emily Scarrett has managed to kick her penalty, and that is half-time. We've got a brilliant game going on here in Auckland. 2 tries for England, but there's also 2 for Canada as well. The difference between the two sides is a penalty by Emily Scarrett. Half-time, England 15, Canada 12.
Thank you very much, Sarah, Kat, Katie. Yes, Canada 12, England 15. What a thrilling 40 minutes of rugby. That was worth getting up early for, wasn't it, folks? Katie, physical was a word we were using ahead of this match, but perhaps for that first half, the right word is intensity?
Yeah, it really was an intense 40 minutes, wasn't it? And I think, to be honest, Canada probably came out on top of it. What we know about Canada is they're a physical side, they're a bunch of athletes, but what they showed there was a lot of rugby savvy. They were smart, they scored 2 very, very good tries as well. And I think potentially for England, we'll go in a little bit disappointed with that scoreline.
Yeah. Kat, what do you think is going on or will be going on shortly in the England changing room?
I think they will. There's not going to be all fire and shouting and swearing. I think what they're going to do is they'll go into their units and they'll talk about how they can improve. Forwards need to improve defensively on the driven ball. They've got pushed off and they've been given penalties away. Scrum solid, they'll be happy with that. Backs wise, some of the kicking has been really good in the chase, but defensively they've been caught out, they've been stepped a few times. So I think Kate said it in the first half, actually, focus is going to be a real big key for that back line.
Sarah, what do we think? Is this the most pressure England have been under in this World Cup so far?
Oh, just because it's a semi-final, yes. But, France really put it to them in the pool game when it was very close and that. But, semi-finals, knockout rugby does funny things to people. And I have to say, Canada have turned up. Canada are playing with no fear at all. They've got nothing to lose. They're not expected to go and win this World Cup. England are. So Canada will be enjoying themselves. They will have smiles on in that changing room. They know they've got the opportunity to do something really special. Whilst England are sat in that changing room right now, knowing that they could lose something that was almost promised to them. But there's no guarantees in sport. It's England who've really got to come out and press. It's not Canada. They've already done their job already.
OK, we will be back with the team shortly for more analysis of that first half and, of course, coverage of the second half of this semi-final. But the time is 16 minutes past 4, so let's get the latest news headlines here on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The BBC News on 5 Live. The RMT union has suspended 3 rail strikes scheduled for today, Monday and Wednesday, but too late to avoid disruption to travellers. The union says it will now engage in intensive negotiations with bosses in their long-running disputes about pay, conditions and jobs. Rishi Sunak is promising he will do absolutely everything he can to limit rises in mortgage rates, saying he knows how anxious people are about the issue. In an interview with the Times newspaper, Mr Sunak also says he is very committed to addressing the problem of migrants crossing the Channel. The Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, is to meet council leaders in Kent in the coming days to discuss their concerns about the record numbers of migrants arriving there. They've warned the Home Secretary that the county is at breaking point. And lottery players across 45 US states are praying for the biggest jackpot win in history later tonight, as there hasn't been a winner of the Powerball game for 3 months. If anyone picks the 6 winning numbers, they stand to collect $1.6 billion, or about £1.4 billion, or about half of that if they take the payout in one lump sum. That's the latest news headlines. Let's get the sport now with Paul Sayras.
Wales kick off their autumn internationals today. They take on New Zealand, hoping to end a 69-year losing streak. Coach Wayne Pivac says it's always a huge challenge to face the All Blacks.
Yeah, look, we've talked about how we approach the game, and it's about ourselves. And going to South Africa was no different. We're drawing on that experience, on what we did and how we went about that, and nothing much has really changed. A different opposition, but still that same challenge. And the mental side of things is huge, and it's about how the boys individually prepare mentally, and then when we come together on the Saturdays.
Scotland host Fiji at Murrayfield. Their coach Gregor Townsend says they're up against a very different kind of team after last weekend's 1-point defeat against Australia.
We're going to find a way to win against a different type of opposition who are going to challenge us a lot throughout the game. Our defence will be tested more than probably it's ever been in the last 12 months, and we've got to react to that at times when Fiji make line breaks, which I'm sure they will. And also get the ball off them. I think that's where we can be really dangerous.
Switching codes, and England take on Papua New Guinea in the quarter-finals of the Men's Rugby League World Cup this afternoon. The England coach Sean Wayne says they're prepared for a bruising encounter.
They hit harder, they're really full on as a team, and I have every respect for them. I know the players do, but it is a bit unique. The way they play, they're very, very direct. They really challenge you to get your detail right in contact, and they really challenge you to get your attack good, because if you miss time something, you're going to get vented too.
Cricket, and England will reach the semi-finals of the T20 World Cup with a win of any kind over Sri Lanka later this morning. A Sri Lanka victory will put the hosts Australia into the semis after their 4-run win over Afghanistan in the Super 12s yesterday. Aberdeen maintained their good home form with a 4-1 win over Hibs at Pittodrie last night. Elsewhere, Livingston were 3-2 winners at Kilmarnock, and non-league Hereford took a first-half lead against Portsmouth in the first round of the FA Cup last night, but it's Pompey's name in the hat for the second-round draw after they came from behind to win 3-1 at Edgar Street.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live. Listen live on digital, online, smart speaker, or the BBC Sounds app.
Morning all. Well, Friday was a chilly start, but lots of sunshine out there, and I really hope you got a chance to enjoy it, because once again, all change to the weather story. We've got another deep low pushing in from the west. It's going to bring some wet and increasingly windy weather with it. Now, it'll start off across Northern Ireland, Scotland, northwest England, Wales and southwest England during Saturday morning. To the east of that, again, a chilly start as skies have stayed clear. So touch of light frost in eastern Scotland, temperatures down to low single figures generally, but you will start off dry, settled and sunny. It's not going to last as the cloud, the wind and rain sweeps its way steadily eastwards, and then that will tend to linger really across parts of East Anglia and South East England during the late afternoon and early evening. That may well spoil some of the bonfire plans, as there'll be some light patchy rain and some blustery winds. But behind that weather front, clearer skies, brighter conditions, ending the afternoon with sunshine in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Top temperatures for Saturday between 10 and 14 Celsius, pretty much where they should be really for this time of year. Now, as we go into Sunday, not quite as straightforward. Again, low pressure stays with us, sunny spells, blustery showers, but it will be a degree or so milder. Louise Lear, 5 Live Weather.
Get ready for sofa season with BBC iPlayer.
Everything you need at your fingertips.
Enjoy some dark nights with The Capture.
Correction is a method of real-time image manipulation.
They are attacking our national broadcast.
Take a journey into the unknown with The Wreck.
This ship is a merciless mistress.
We're in way over our heads. There's a killer on the ship.
And discover the true story of a maverick billionaire with The Elon Musk Show.
He's done things no other country can do.
I think he is smarter than Einstein.
Watch on BBC iPlayer.
The Women's Rugby World Cup on BBC 5 Live.
Welcome back. Coming up, second half commentary of England against Canada in the semi-finals of the Women's Rugby Union World Cup. At halftime, it's Canada 12, England 15. And the semi-final action continues on 5 Live, as coming up at 6:30, hosts New Zealand take on France. So are the locals embracing the tournament? Well, on Thursday's Rugby Union show, Sonia McLaughlin, Katie Daly-McLean and Kat Merchant caught up with New Zealand sports broadcaster Ricky Swannell to get her thoughts on how the World Cup has been received so far, especially now the home team are in the semi-finals.
Pretty pumped. I must say, you see a few things over the course of time, and I've not seen anything like this for women's rugby in New Zealand ever. I'm getting people stopping me. What time are they playing? How can I see it? How are they going to go? And all of that. And the accessibility of the players, they have really been quite embraced. And, there's some pretty cynical elements of the New Zealand rugby public, as I'm sure you guys are well aware. And you're seeing the grumpy old men brigade absolutely embrace these women. They have loved it. I think everyone's excited, probably a little bit nervous about what could happen tomorrow night. But, everyone has really got behind them.
I'm really conscious, or really curious, actually. Obviously, we read a lot about how the union has kind of treated the Black Ferns in terms of, the clash with Japan, the funding element. How did New Zealand public react to that? Where does that kind of sit with people's views?
They got pretty outraged. And look, I have a bit of a philosophy of never read the comments on media articles or social media posts. But I was like, I'll just have a little look here. And it was very much New Zealand rugby has got this wrong. And the people saying, yes, I'm going to be watching the Black Ferns. The difference is, I guess, the Black Ferns in the World Cup is being played or shown on a different platform to what the All Blacks were last weekend. Plus, it was also delayed on free to air. But from what I have heard, the actual viewing numbers of the games, the Black Ferns outrated the All Blacks. Might be something to do with the All Blacks' very ordinary performance, but that they outplayed them, or that people watched the first half of the All Blacks game and then switched over. This weekend, it's a clear runway for the Black Ferns. It's live on free-to-air TV. There's nothing else on. The All Blacks aren't playing. The T20 World Cup, New Zealand's not playing tomorrow night, so they've got clear runway. It was very much in favour of, I'm going to be watching the women because I also really enjoy the brand of rugby they're playing.
And they do play a really exciting brand of rugby. And we were in the press conference and Coach Wayne was saying that they always play with a smile on their faces and they have, the music on the bus and there's a great atmosphere. You've been in there in camp with them. Is the atmosphere one of confidence as well? Do you think they really genuinely believe that they are going to win this World Cup?
Yeah, they do. And I actually popped into the team hotel the other day to have a chat with one of the players, and they're not overconfident, but you can see from where they were a year ago, and you guys all saw it, and I was back here doing those games at 2:00 in the morning, and it was a pretty miserable experience from where they were. That they weren't sure whether they'd bridged the gap. They know it's closed. They don't know 100% whether they've bridged that gap to France and to England, but they are playing a game that is enjoyable to watch, that they are enjoying playing, and the confidence they have within each other is really huge. I wonder too a little bit if maybe we underestimated the importance of the 10-year connection between some of those Sevens players that have come into the side, and some questioned why they should be there, but Woodman, Tui, Hirini, Flula, they've played together so often and they've played big games, and that has been imparted on the rest of their teammates as well.
So don't go anywhere this morning as the semi-final action continues on BBC Radio 5 Live. 6:30, hosts New Zealand take on France. And if you stay with us, we will take you through all the build-up, the game and analysis afterwards as well. But right now, we are bringing you coverage of Canada versus England. The current score at half-time, Canada 12, England 15. Katie, it's been an intense match so far. What do you think England will want to do differently in this second half?
I think they'll want to come out, they'll want to get some points on the board. Emily Scarrett kicking that penalty just before half-time kind of showed a different mentality in England. They know they're in a game, they know they're going to have to tick the scoreboard over. But I think probably just a bit more, they're going to play one more territory. I would expect them to go a bit more to their traditional driving line-out that we've seen previously and been so dominant. But yeah, for me, it's going to be about that scoreboard. They're really obvious they need some more points.
OK, well, the second half of Canada versus England is just about to get underway. Time now to hand you back to your commentary team, Kat Merchant, Katie Daly-McLean and Sarah Orchard.
Thanks ever so much, Laura. Yes, welcome back to Auckland. A very good morning to everyone. If you're just waking up now, wow, what a match you are walking and waking up to, because this is a Rugby World Cup semi-final. It's England against Canada. England, they're the world number ones. They've won 29 games on the bounce, but boy, have they got a test match here if they want to get to that World Cup final. The half-time score England 15, Canada 12. The only reason England are ahead is because they got a penalty just at the half-time whistle, and it was slotted by Emily Scarrett, and we're just waiting for them to get back underway in this second half. Can't spot any changes just yet for either side, but if we do see them, we will let you know. Alongside me, Kat Merchant, as they just get ready to go again. England, they won't be flustered by this. We can build this up. I'm trying to make this exciting, but they will be calm as anything right now.
Well, just look at the body language as they've walked out. We can see it from here. England just walk out. They're calm. Canada are clapping. They're hitting their legs. They're jumping. They're clearly pumped. But England are just calm, focused, composed. They don't need to panic. They know they've got the skill set and the ability to come back and win this game. But haven't Canada just put on a show?
They really have. And the Canadians, don't forget, they are an amateur side, a fully amateur side. They're the only ones left at the semi-final stage that don't have a fully professional outfit. England, they've been professional now since 2019. And the run they've been on, it has been all the pressure on their shoulders throughout this World Cup and will continue now. So Zoe Harrison gets us back underway in this second half. This Rugby World Cup semi-final coming to you live on 5 Live from New Zealand, from Auckland. England playing from right to left in this second half, wearing their white shirts. Canada wearing their black shirts with a red trim, playing from left to right as the ball's gathered then by Helena Rowland. Rowland just looking for a little bit of space. She's going to be dragged down eventually by the Canadian scrum half Pelletier. And in the end, the ball comes back, this time taken forward by Byrne. Harrison, the Saracens fly half, manages to feed Matthews. Matthews has to roll through a couple of tackles to set up the ball calmly for Harrison again. Harrison taking the ball into contact. We've seen her have to do that a couple of times in this fixture so far. She doesn't want to test the edges of the pitch and leaves players isolated, as England do have players on this near side. Cocaine is there with Byrne. Byrne's still going. She's so tricky to bring down, makes a good couple of metres, and England go inside of the Canadian 22, 15 metres out from this near side. Pretty much the whole of the pitch at their beckoning if they want to use it. Byrne once again, soft hands to Cocaine. Cocaine makes sure she doesn't get too close to the near side touch. Infanti, she looks up, manages to find the calm form there of Aldcroft. Aldcroft pushing 6 metres out then from the English line. This is strong from England. It is such calm, composed rugby. It's from the textbook. They're playing it well. Aldcroft again, still 6 metres to travel to the Canadian line to extend their lead in the Rugby World Cup semi-final. Packer, the Saracens flanker, who starred so far in this fixture, not releasing the player on the floor there from Canada, and England have a penalty right in front of the posts. And again, England stand up. They're calm. They'll take their time.
It'd be really interesting to see what they do here. Yeah, logically they should go for post, which they have done, but a confident England side goes for the line, as we've seen. So this is credit to how much pressure Canada are putting them under, but absolutely right decision. Build on the score in tight games, take points when they're on offer, build, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how exciting it is, how you get there, you just need to win it.
Yeah, there's been so much talk about England and how much their driving maul has given them sort of fruits of their labour throughout this World Cup, but Emily Scarrett's now calling in Tatiana Hurd because it's a little bit windy out there, and she's going to ask Tatiana Hurd to keep her hand on the ball so it doesn't blow over in the wind. This one is right in front of the sticks. This is bread and butter for Emily Scarrett. That one goes through, and England do extend their lead in the Rugby World Cup semi-final. It's now England 18, Canada 12.
I do think this game, though, it's not tight because England have tried to suddenly move it wide, because it hasn't particularly got there, and they did when they did. Dow scored it out wide, so it's not because they're changing the way they play. They've just not played as well as they have previously, and they've been a bit shocked by Canada.
Yeah, certainly. Well, the restart's going to come in from Canada. They've managed to average 5 tries a game throughout this World Cup, and up until this game they'd won 100% of their scrums. Their line-out was averaging around 95%, but particularly the line-out has been a struggle for the Canadians in this fixture. And from the restart, England have managed to hold on to the ball. They're inside of their own half between the 10 and the 22, as we just see Abby Ward riding through a tackle there by Paquin. Comes back to Rowland. He's got this incredible kicking style. It's unique. You won't see anyone else in the world kick like Helena Rowland, but it really works for her, and it's quite low to the ground, which is good at the moment for England because they're playing into the wind in this second half. Rowland on the ball once again as we just watch the ping pong elapse, and ball is on the near side of the field, 5 metres out, stolen by Canada. Wonderful work by them, taken that time by Cal Juvie, the Toronto Scottish player, and we've got an England player down on the floor, injured at the moment, just waiting to see which player that is, but whoever it is struggling. Looks like it's Helena Rowland. Ball come back then from Canada, who are in the middle of the park at the moment. They will stop play if it gets too close to Helena Rowland. She's in a little bit of discomfort on the floor at the moment. A couple of medics are just going to help her out. Arms going to the air. They're already asking for extra support. This is worrying them for England if Rowland is out. She's considered one of their biggest players. They don't want Canada to get too close to her as play continues. Down on the floor goes Aleri. Aleri just waits for the ball to come round. They've actually brought the stretcher onto the park and they want to get Helena Rowland some oxygen, which will be hugely concerning. I am surprised that the referee hasn't stopped play. She does. She's been told now. And this is a big moment in this Rugby World Cup semi-final. This is all the players for England are significant at this stage. But the fact that it's Helena Rowland, who's considered one of the best utility players for England, will be a massive loss.
Oh, a huge loss, and it's always heartbreaking to see in any game, any injury, but in a semi-final as well. And she's lying very still, but she was in pain. You could see it, and with that many medics around her. But it does then again have this shuffle of the backline, which is already, you know, the backline has been shuffled around a little bit. There's been a little bit of concern about who's covering what. And actually, we spoke about it, and we said, I wonder who would go 9, say, if you know, if we needed someone extra in there. And one of the names that come up was Rowland. So it's a big loss for England.
Emily Scarrett is the England woman who is stepping up to come and speak to Helena Rowland. This is something you see the England team do, is that they won't as a group go over and speak to the injured player. It's almost like a routine that teams go through. If someone is down and it's a serious injury, one player is almost designated to go and have a word with them and just check in.
The last thing you want if you're lying on the floor and you're thinking this is my semi-final over, it might even be my final over, you don't want your whole squad in your face. You just really don't. But one player, Emily Scarrett, coming over just to see how things are getting on is nice, probably, as a player, to go, okay, they've got my back here.
Okay, well, let's just head back to the studio and get the thoughts of Katie Daly-McLean at what looks like a really serious injury to Helena Rowland, because she's still so young, 23 years old, only winning her 22nd cap, but she has just been so much for this England side because she's so versatile, Katie.
Yeah, massively, and obviously we hope Helena's absolutely fine, and this is just all precautionary. It would be such a huge loss to England, you know, like you say, she's very versatile, but for me, Helena is a fullback. You know, we've seen her today, one of the standout players, let's be honest, in this side that probably hasn't functioned as well as we've seen them function previously. She's ran the ball back, she's got that kicking style like you talked about, but she's just an all-round athlete, you know. She thrived in sevens, and that's for me why that fullback shirt she's making her own, because it's everything you want. She gets space, she gets time, she can handle, she can kick, and she has such a long list of attributes, and like I say, we hope this is just kind of a small blip and that she'll be fine, hopefully, as long as England reach that final next weekend.
Well, what will be reassuring, although they did bring on the oxygen for Helena Rowland, she hasn't gone off on a stretcher. She is sat up and she's going off on the little cart, and she's going off sat up and she's clapping, which is great to see.
Yeah, she's back smiling, she's clapping, and that is a very good sign. It could just be one of those things, and it does happen sometimes. Your knee will move really funny and you sort of go into that panic of, okay, don't move, could be bad, but hopefully bit of swelling, bit of ice, and yeah, she can be back next week.
Okay, so Helena Rowland, she goes off on a cart down the tunnel. I know she'll have friends and family out here who'll be hugely concerned about her, but she did wave as she went off the field of play. If you're joining us here on 5 Live this morning, you join us as we come to you live from Auckland in New Zealand. It's the Women's Rugby World Cup semi-final. It's England 18, Canada 12. England only went in at the break 3 points up. That was after Emily Scarrett kicked a penalty after Canada had equalised in the closing few minutes of that second half, and the ball is down on the ground. Canada are managing to keep it in there. Brave decisions from them at the scrum as it eventually comes out towards the centres. Sarah Kaljuvi, she takes it forward, and Canada just looking bright then from this restart after that pause for the injury. Canada going forward inside of the England half between the 10 and the 22. It was Canadian ball that caused the stoppage. That's why we started with the restart. Amy Barrett-Theron, our referee, had to stop the play because it was all getting a little bit too close to the injury, as it's taken forward this time by Corrigan, the Canadian, one of the try scorers, as they switch back direction. They're really trying to make England guess at the moment. They've got numbers out on that far side. England need to rearrange their back line a little bit quicker at times than they are. This time it's Alex Tessier, the fly half, who pushes towards the edges of the field, and they might be aware that sometimes that's where England can just have slight holes in their defence if you can just manipulate them. We saw a great try for Australia last week in the quarter-final when they just managed to work that English defence enough. Canada still working forward. This is looking better from them. 10 metres to go towards the English line. Can the white shirts hold as Karen Paquin misses her ball, and it's taken on the floor this time by McDonald. A slight miss there. Referee looks like she's going to say it's been knocked on by England, and we restart with the Canadian scrum.
Oh yeah, an error there from England. They've got their hands up. They're not happy that happened. But Canada are playing, and I don't normally like this word, but they're playing in a brave way. They're not scared to throw that pass. And actually, yeah, if it does go to England, they're happy. They're just going to defend it. But they really are moving it. They're stretching that English defence, and they are looking for the holes. But the interesting thing that I like as well is when they have dragged it wide, they then do 2 pick and goes before they then go wide again. So they're really dragging in that defence.
Okay, the ball then is a Canadian ball. It's a Canadian scrum just below us here in our commentary position at Eden Park. 10 metres out from the near side touch, and it is about 10 metres out from the English line. Canada wait to get it in. The scrum is holding from England. They're refusing to budge. Eventually it is released out the back door, taken forward by Grant. She runs into white shirts, makes a couple of metres. They want quicker ball though, the Canadians. Oh, they almost drop it. That was a risky business, but they hold on. 7 metres to go towards the England line. There is a Canadian player down on the floor, slowly getting back to her feet, holding onto her leg at the moment. That player is Kaujuvi, but it's still Canadian ball. It's her teammates are still working the hard yards for the time being. Pushed back once again. Real hard hits coming in on Forteza, who takes it forward. 5 phases work through. This time we see Menin. She puts her body on the line. Still Menin for Canada. If they get a try here in the semi-final, what a difference this is going to make to the fixture. This time on the floor. Tutosi has it. She's trying to place it backwards. England's slowing it down. They work towards the side. This is a lovely pick and go game from Canada. They don't need to do much else. Hunter, the England captain, waits, drags down her women. 9 phases completed by the Canucks. Push back ball. Round the corner once again. England have to be careful. 1 metre left for Canada to go. If they score now, they'll be within a point of England. Still not quite over the line. Pick and go once again. Push back. The referee's in there having a very close look. England recycle again. Emily Scarratt trying to hold up. The opposite number, Sophie de Goody, the Canadian captain. Still Canada with the ball. Gathered once again. Amy Cockayne is wrapping up and dragging back to Tosi. Hooker on hooker. Amy Cockayne has it. What absolute brutal strength there by Cockayne. Somehow Canada have got it back. This is brilliant rugby to watch. It's tense, it's tight, it's anyone's. Still, here come Canada again. This time it's through Menin. 48 minutes on the clock. England 18, Canada 12. Canada go again. They have been banging at the door now for about 3 minutes. Recycled once again. Sophie de Goody. She takes it forward. England being careful not to give away penalties. Have they got turnover ball? Canada warned. I think England have it. Infante looking for options behind her on either side. Going to wing it out to the far near side. Here comes McDonald. Still Claudia McDonald. She runs back into trouble. She's still going, Claudia McDonald. She needs a white shirt. She passes out wide. It's Abby Dow. Here comes Dow on the halfway line. She is gassing it. Foot is fully down to the floor. She's not going to be caught. Abby Dow. That is just wow. 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 Made by Claudia McDonald. Back down inside the England 22. And my goodness, England, this isn't an easy semi-final, but they're leading it. Is England 23, Canada 12.
And this, though, comes from England trying something different. They're really on their try line defensively. They have passes back behind it. Claudia doesn't kick it. She backs herself. She does a few side steps, manages a beautiful pass out wide to Dow. And then that had to be a 60-metre run in for her. Like, the Canadian girls had an angle on her, but she has just too much pace there. So footwork, scanning, huge pass, and then but that comes from something different.
Kat, we've just seen a try created by 2 wings.
Yeah,
2 wings.
This is what I live for.
And on that thought, let's head back to studio. Katie Daly-McLean, we saw a bit of back play there.
We did, and look what happened. This is what I've been saying for the whole tournament. Let the backs have the ball. No, I mean, edge to edge, like Kat touched on there. How brave were England, you know, in a game that's Canada probably should have scored about 3 or 4 phases earlier. England get 2 turnovers in their 22, and then where we would have seen them traditionally kick long, maybe that wind is playing a bit of a part in that. Zoe Harrison gets her head up, bosses the ball from Lilan Infante, moves the ball, and then obviously, like Kat will be loving there, two wingers link up and run 100 metres between them. So yeah, it just shows the capability of England, and for me, that is what you want to see, and it doesn't get any harder than doing it from inside your own goal line.
Well, the voice there of Katie Daly-McLean, 2014 Rugby World Cup champion and captain on the day in Paris, as Emily Scarrett's conversion just goes across the face of the goals. So it is England 23, Canada 12. We've just had a bit of excitement as we finally got to see the backs having the ball for a change, as Canada just make a couple of changes here. Coming on is Fawamba and also Bukaboon. Big moment also for Tyson Bukaboon as she comes onto the field. She's the second most Canadian player in history today as she wins her 55th cap. She's got a little way to go if she wants to become the most capped Canadian woman. That title is held by Gillian Florence, who's got 67 caps, so a little bit of a way to go. But why am I making such a big thing about the Canadian bench? Quite simply, they've gone for a 7-1 split. 7 forwards, 1 back. Traditionally, you see 5 and 3, Kat. It is unusual.
Definitely, or maybe a 6-2, but you never see a 7-1. But Canada have gone for it. They've done it before, but they just rely on their pack. They said that a couple of them can come across and play on the backs as well, but it is really unusual to see.
Yeah, and it's even more significant as well because Sarah Kaljuvi has been receiving a lot of treatment, and it means they're also going to have to bring on Anais Holly. Holly is the only back they have on the bench. So this is going to be a big ask of Canada now. So Kaljuvi is off the field, and that 7-1 split might come back to bite Canada. Worth mentioning if you're just joining us here on BBC Radio 5 Live this morning, Helena Rowland had to be taken off in a cart at the beginning of this second half. She did wave to the crowd as she went off, perhaps not as serious an injury as it looked initially when she went down, but that will be a concern for her if England are in a World Cup final next weekend. Penalty for Canada on the floor on the far side of the field. We'll just wait for them to make that decision. I've mentioned a lot about the sparkling sunshine we have had here in Auckland this week. Kat Merchant, for people who don't know, you went sea kayaking in the sparkling sunshine. What did you learn about New Zealand in that moment?
The New Zealand sun is a lot stronger than it looks. I had a lovely cross on my back. Unfortunately not an England one, it's diagonal. But yes, wear a lot of sunscreen.
As I look round, I'm going to get a nod from a Kiwi, our engineer Jim behind me. It's because there's less ozone here. Yes, he's nodding away. We do know our stuff. So you need to wear a little bit more sun cream here than perhaps you would elsewhere in the world. So here's a moment for Canada. They've got a line out 5 metres from the England line. A try now would mean an awful lot to them as they fly into the air through Forteza. She comes down to ground. Now, there's a lot of players on the ground. Referee is giving the penalty advantage to Canada as well. Going to come back for it. We're just listening. It is just a penalty. It's not going to be anything else. Canada will be happy with that.
And restart that once it's gone down.
Okay, she's just saying she's going to reset that. I assume Canada will just kick for another line out and do the same trick all over again.
Absolutely, they'll go for that because they have put pressure on England defensively when they have been doing these. So just been given a penalty again. They want to really turn the screw here and trying to be getting a score.
Okay. Far side of the field, waiting for the ball to come in for Canada to Tozy. She's got 6 tries herself throughout this World Cup as it goes front. It's exactly the same line-out move they try to go as they spin it round. England have to reset themselves as they try and hold it. So another arm out in the direction, but I think that's just that the line-out is over. There's no is there a penalty? I can't tell from the referee. She keeps spinning her arm up and down at the moment. It's loose, it's on the floor. It is going to be a penalty, and she's going to have a word with England, or she's going to go to her pocket for a card here. It doesn't look like a card. I think England are lucky there because this isn't the first time in this match that this has happened. Sophie de Goody does go and have a word.
So we've had too many infringements in the maul. Yep. You had the warning in the first half. You cleaned it up. Yep. It's gone again. We have to send them a 1.
Okay, so there is going to be a card. Vicky Cornborough, England loose head prop, is going to go to the bin. Worth also saying that Sarah Hunter is off the field for England and that Emily Scarrett is currently playing captain. So England down to the 14 for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, and they would have been lucky to not have a player go there because they had already been warned. It's an area of strength for Canada. Could look quite cynical for England trying to stop it. So a team infringement there, but Cornborough the one to take it. But this is a really important 10 minutes now. They really have to pull together because they have pulled the score apart, but Canada are really on it, and they have been close to that try line several times.
Also significant that it's a loose head prop as well that's had to go off. This is perhaps I don't want to say it's a weakness of England, but they've had to recycle through their pops throughout this World Cup, which means they've all had game time, which is great, but it's not something you want to see on a regular basis.
No, but Canada there, they had the penalty and they've gone for the line out, and okay, yeah, England are a prop down in the line out, so a lifter, they'll have to shuffle things around, but go for the scrum. Go for the scrum 100%. They've just had a scrum a prop simping.
A big moment here, not straight.
Outside shoulder.
So Canada have mucked up their line out. England, big moment for them, because if they go for the scrum, they've got to take a wing off and bring a prop on. Maud Muir will be stalking away on the touch at the moment. So they've gone for the line out. Clever.
So this is why, though, Canada should never have gone for that line out anyway. Go for the scrum, force England to make that change.
Well, it's not worked out. England, they know their onions, made a really sensible decision here. Doesn't disrupt their game too much. And Abby Ward quite rightly turns around and says, why are Canada right next to me? There's meant to be a metre gap. And I have to say, England should shuffle across a little bit as well. It should be the line in the middle. And so England were warned. What are they going to go for here? Line out 5 minutes from their own line. Abby Ward, safe as houses, takes the ball in the air. Can't stress her significance on this English team and the impact she has had on it at this World Cup. England, they're trying to wind down the clock now because they're down to 14 women. Leanne Infante goes in to have a nice little chat from the referee to distract her. The warning comes in again. Infante's going to have to get that one out before the referee gets annoyed. She's caught at the back, but manages to go once again. Down on the floor goes Infante, far side of the field. They're still stuck inside of their own 22 at the moment, England, waiting to receive the ball. And they go forward this time through Byrne. Byrne's going to calmly place it backwards. It's like watching, not a game of rugby, it's like I'm watching a succession of actors trying to show their frustration in front of a casting agent. That is what we're seeing at the moment from the England team. It's effective.
They've really stepped up the drama, haven't
they?
They have.
Yeah. Well, they've managed to win the penalty. The acting was that good. Such was their frustration and annoyance that Amy Barrett-Theron said, yes, of course you can have your penalty. And Zoe Harrison, the Saracens fly half, is going to send that one down the near side. Of course, Saracens, they are current reigning Premier 15s champions. The league hasn't got underway just yet. This year it's been delayed because of the start of the World Cup. It's actually going to start the weekend after the World Cup final. Although, regardless of whether England are in that final or not, all 4 teams involved in the semi-finals, they're all going to be playing either in the final or in the third, fourth playoffs. So highly unlikely you'll get to see the England Stars in the opening round. There was a hand in there from Canada from the line-out that disrupted England, but it's landed back on the England side, and they have a ruck at the moment on the 22. It's not perhaps as exciting rugby as we've been describing throughout this second half so far, and that's because England are playing the classic up the jumper rugby. They have zero interest in letting Canada have the ball unless it is safe. So Zoe Harrison has got the ball and has sent it down, and it bounces over the halfway line. Considering the wind that Zoe Harrison is playing into at the moment, she's done brilliantly there. Canada could arguably have done better. Popped off ball on this near side to Paige Farries. She's actually competed internationally at archery, and they've got another Canadian player gone down on the ground injured. This is not good for Canada with the options they have on the bench, so I think it's another back that's gone down on the ground. Sophie de Goody, Canadian captain, on the floor on the halfway line. England, they've got turnover ball. Nothing is going the way of the Canadians at the moment. Remember, England playing with 14 women at the moment. Popped off ball to Amy Cockayne, who's dragged down to the turf on this near side of the field. Referee's going to stop play, too close to the injury. They will restart it with an English ball because that's what's happened, but I can't see what the number on the Canadian back is. That the players had been the wrong side of us the whole time she's been on the floor, and she's being treated now. And as I said,
it might be O'Leary.
Yeah,
fullback.
So Alyssa O'Leary, we were already talking what a good game she was having. We're just looking at the contact that she had. It was reasonably innocuous from Alex Matthews, but at the same time, you know, the 7-1 split is going to cost them. They're going to have to put a forward in the backs.
Yeah, you just can't do it. You can have people that cover it, but if it's not, you're talking semi-final time of, if you're looking at moving forward to finals, you have to have specialists in their positions. Especially, people don't really think about it as much, but as backs defensively, you ask a lot of them, and they are used to defending like that. Put a forward into a back line, it's suddenly, you're a lot further away from your teammates suddenly, and you're having to cover a lot more space.
Well, Alyssa O'Leary is still down on the ground receiving treatment. If we just go and have a chat with Katie Daly-McLean in the studio. England have gone for a 6-2 split on their bench, Katie. They've decided that after Lucy Packer has picked up a knock, she's a scrum half, they've replaced her with Sadia Kabir, who's a flanker. What did you make of that decision?
Yeah, interesting. Obviously, I mean, they didn't have any more nines out there. As we know, Claudia McDonald, their other nine, is now starring on the wing for them. But yeah, I mean, like Kat's talked about, like 6-2 split is probably like what we would class as your bomb squad. You know your forwards are going to have to work really hard. So having that variation, I suppose, is quite important. But we talked about Sadia Kabir earlier in the tournament, didn't we? And she's been phenomenal. So I wonder if Simon Middleton's kind of starting to pick his players that are performing, because we know Sadia will come on, we know she'll add something. It might give him an opportunity to rest Marley Packer when traditionally you wouldn't have a 7, as well as having someone like Poppy Cleal on the bench. So I think it's great. I mean, I've really enjoyed watching Sadia Kabir play, and hopefully she gets some minutes today.
Well, we're about to get back underway. Canada are desperately trying to keep as many women on the field as possible, but they're struggling. They're taking some big hits from England. O'Leary is on, but she's got a heavily strapped left thigh, and I can tell you she's limping, which is, a curious decision for them to maintain. It looks like we're going to have some changes coming here. Marley Packer is having to be the woman who is sacrificed because it is a scrum, and coming onto the field in her place, of course, is Maud Muir. They could do this with a wing, or they can do it with a flanker. Yeah,
you just pick, depending on how the game's going, you pick whoever you want to send off with it. But this is why Canada should have, I'm going on about it, but they should have done it earlier, because you've got a world-class player like Packer on. If you can get her off just by picking a scrum, why would you not do that?
So Maud Muir is on then into the front row for England, who are playing for 14 women now. There's still about another 5 minutes. They've got a ride of that sin bin. Poppy Cleal collects from the base and works her way around the corner. Sarah Hunter, the captain, she was subbed off early on in this second half. Here comes Aldcroft, now playing her rugby at Gloucester Hartbury. Big season, no doubt, coming her way. Some big signings made by Gloucester Hartbury in the off-season. Maud Muir, the player who's come in, has also signed for them as well, as has the Wales captain Shuan Lillicrap. As England working through the phases, they're not going to do anything clever. Don't expect too many fireworks while they're a woman down. Ward then gets the ball to Scarrett. She just shrubs off the first tackle. They want to keep it down the middle channel of the field. They don't want to risk anything too dangerous out on the edges. Cleal once again, such a force when she plays for England, also for Saracens. Simon Middleton, the England head coach, once called her the best player in the world right now, Poppy Cleal. But that was at a time when the England regular captain, Sarah Hunter, she wasn't really playing at that time. She had a succession of injuries, and since she's been back, Middleton has stuck with his regular captain. Cleal, she's had to bide her time. 30 years old now as the ball comes back, this time to Ward. She's desperately trying to hold on to it, and England just start sniffing around that Canadian 22-metre line. They're going right up the guts of the pitch. Easy rugby from both sides. If you're joining us here on 5 Live, England 23, Canada 12, Rugby World Cup semi-final. Sarah Byrne makes a good 6 or 7 metres as she flies down this near side wing. Aldcroft, so many phases put together, 15 now for England, and it's so calm, it's so on point, it's so well rehearsed and practiced. The Canadians must just be thinking, what have we got to do to get the ball? We've got the extra woman. It's really classic rugby England are playing. If you're a coach and you need to teach your team to pick and go, this is the way you've got to go. Even Emily Scarrett there, that was a really low pass there. She took it so calmly, almost round the ankles, and Canada have managed to turn it over. They're going to push it out towards the far side. They've got numbers there. Abby Dow is having to track back. There's still 2 women out there. England need to make their tackles. And here we go. Breakaway for Canada. The tackle does come in the end. Ellie Kildunn manages to get her woman down. Canada back down the other end of the field, approaching the English 22. Big run now by Bookaboom. She goes over into the 22. All about the Canadians all of a sudden. All that calm nature. There's another Canadian woman down injured. 60 minutes on the clock. Still about 3 minutes to go on the England sin bin. Back it comes this time to Tessier. Tessier looking for options. They're trying to swing it round to O'Leary, who's got that big strapping on her leg. It's not going to be. It's Holly who's got it now. Penalty for Canada. England not rolling away at the breakdown. Still a Canadian player down on the far side. 61 minutes on the clock. You just feel Canada, they are really creaking at the moment. They need to take an opportunity here whilst England are down the women. If they can't, it is all going to be a massive wall of white shirts the rest of the game.
Yeah, they've got to take their opportunities, but to be fair to Canada as well, every time they make a line break, they utilise it, and it is showing vulnerabilities in that England defence when they are stretched a little bit, because they go through. They didn't have even that much support with them, but they still managed to keep the ball. So that's the interesting thing for me.
Yeah, I think the player who's down at the moment is Paige Farries. She was the woman who made the break down the far side wing, and it took her. She was almost sort of closed in on by 3 England players all at one time. So she's basically got sandwiched in there. And she's having a little bit of treatment to her nose at the moment, Paige Farries. She's actually from Alberta in Canada. And I said a little bit earlier this, which I always find fascinating, but it always shows you how talented international sports people are. She competed in international archery for Canada. And I think we've got a player coming up in the second semi-final later here this morning on BBC Radio 5 Live. She's one of the New Zealand players. She's competed for New Zealand at football, taekwondo and ultimate frisbee. Renee Holmes, the fullback today. I mean, what are you good at as well, Kat? I imagine you're good at tiddlywinks, chess, surfing, running, everything.
Running, handoffs.
You're good at weights, I know that.
I am quite good at weights. Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah.
There we go. I mean, just don't get into any kind of sporting contest with any of these women. It's all kind of crazy, dangerous stuff. So yeah, that second semi-final, New Zealand against France, is coming your way this morning at 6:30 a.m. The hosts, New Zealand, who've been on this rise throughout this World Cup after a disastrous autumn internationals where they got thumped by England and France. 2 tests apiece, they went down in both England and France. And they've really been a changed side, haven't they, Kat, throughout this tournament, but a very different style to everyone else.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people from the autumns would have watched that and gone, do you know what, England have put 50 points on them, France have put 50 points on them, and they have ruled the Black Ferns out completely, and just thinking that they're not going to improve. But if there's one thing the Black Ferns do when they lose, they learn, they get better, and they have shown that this tournament so far.
Line out for Canada on the near side. Tutosi finds her woman. The maul is there. Referee's happy it's all legal, and they pick and go once again, this time through Menin. Still Canadian ball, 7 metres to travel to the England line. England 23, Canada 12, 62 minutes on the clock and about 1 minute left on the English sin bin. Interesting who they bring back on once that bin is complete. Ball down on the ground. Still England, but it's been knocked on by Canada. We'll restart with an English scrum, and it's just these moments now where Canada are in the 22. They need points. They are not getting them.
Well, if you think the territory split, Canada have had a lot of ball in the English 22. They have had opportunities. They've just not quite finished them. But that shows the way that they have played and how strong they have been. They're not far off it. It's that 5-10%, which if they actually clinically finish in these areas, it would be a completely different scoreline.
Yeah, there's one of the England players down on the floor at the moment, just receiving a little bit of treatment. I can't quite make out who it is at the moment. Could be Amy Cockayne. There we go. So they're just taking on a bit of water as well. I can't stress to you the heat of the day as well, which is really worth bearing in mind, as Amy Cockayne just bounces up and down on her feet. Katie Daly-McLean in studio right now. How contrasting is it? England played in an absolute bubble bath last week in the conditions that we were in, while as this week it's blazing sunshine. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I mean, they were probably more comfortable playing in last week's rain, weren't they? Like being a traditional England side, and we saw them perform very well. I think, to be honest, there will be, all of these things are just kind of peripheries. You know, they will have trained in this in the build-up, so they'll be very, very comfortable with whatever the weather shows. I think what's interesting this week is the performance of individuals. Last week we had some real standout performances, where today their star players, Molly Packer, Emily Scarrett, have probably been slightly quieter than what we've seen from them typically.
Yeah, there's been some big names out there today for England who have perhaps been a little bit quiet. I mean, Kat, has that surprised you?
Yeah, I think in the big games you do normally look for your Emily Scarretts and your Molly Packers to make those huge big differences, and we've not seen enough of them, whereas normally we'd be saying their names on commentary repeatedly, and we just haven't really today.
And I can tell you already, I can see it's Sadia Kabir who's warming up on the touchline at the moment to come back on. once that sin bin is up. So England come away with the ball through Poppy Cleal off the back of the scrum. They've been inside of their 22 for far longer than they would like, with 63 minutes on the clock. They've got a 11-point lead in this World Cup semi-final as the ball goes high into the air over the heads of the Canadians. Canada are not standing deep enough. They're having to chase back the ball every time for England. They should have been practicing that one in training, to perhaps receive the ball deeper, because it just gives England that little bit more time to get up in their faces. And now Canada having to play out of their own half. They're on their own 10-metre line as Bookaboo manages to push it out towards the far side. Aleri is there. She's met with a wall of about 3 English forwards who continue to push backwards. It is absolutely ferocious. It's incredible to think how deep we are into this game now and how hungry the English forwards still are to stop their opposite numbers and make sure no one can pass. Canada, if they can recycle the ball a bit quicker, there are numbers on this near side. Here come the Canadians. They managed to find it. Paquin, she's got support outside her through Aleri. Back inside, McDonald doesn't make the tackle. Neither does Maud Muir. And a few more players have to come in to shore up defence there. That could have been dangerous for Canada if England hadn't finally got some cover tackles in. Bookaboom once again. Referee says ball's gone backwards by Canada. They're now back outside of the English 22. Bookaboom again. Down on the floor. What a great surname that is. We said every time the World Cups come around. Pushes towards the far side of the field. Mistakes there by Canada. Ball loose on the floor. It's gone backwards though. They've gone through 7 phases now, the Canadian women. They're ranked 3 in the world. You can see why, but they are an amateur side. England have managed to clear over the top. They've done it legally. That was hard, heavy work. England have the ball. The Canadians must be so disheartened when that happens, as Sarah Byrne absolutely bulldozes over the top of her opposite women. This time it's cleared down the side by Zoe Harrison. She's not going to find touch, but again, she's just forcing those Canadians to go ever so slightly backwards. There's a bit of clear green grass on this near side, and the bouncing ball needs to be got there by Harrison, who almost has to take it back over her own line. Doesn't. Was there a bit of escorting there by Alex Matthews? Referee says no. Canada are going to get the liner on the near side, just outside of the 22, as the changes are coming on. Lark Davis is coming onto the field to replace Amy Cockayne, and we do get to see Sadia Kabir, England back up to 15.
And that's great, and that's what you want. You want players like Sadia Kabir coming on, because she doesn't have a lot of experience in these kind of settings. So like the Canadians, nothing to lose. Like, go on, carve up, let's see what you can do, because England are in control of this game, and that's what we need to remember. We're used to seeing them, you know, slightly further ahead, or a lot further ahead by this point, but they're not doing badly.
Well, ball is in from Canada. It was a hard throw by Bogue, but she manages to come away with it. They're really hard passes the Canadians are giving each other. It's almost like they need to give each other a break. It's like, be nice to each other.
Yeah, they're passing like they're 2 metres apart, and they're actually like 10 metres apart.
It really is quite hard, as the ball goes through the hands now for Taser. Plays her rugby at Quebec Rugby Club. Sophie de Goody almost teasing the defence to come up and tackle her, and they say, OK, we will. How about that? Bookaboom now takes it forward. She's brought down by Cleal. Big pass out by Pelletier. She manages to get it away to Tessier. This is better from Canada. They're pushing towards the edges of the field. They've made a couple of metres, but still not cleanly over the gain line just yet. And for all their efforts, Canada, they're just not coming away with points. They've spent plenty of time down in England's half of the field in this second half, as Bookaboom manages to break away. Still Bookaboom going forward. Sadia Kabir's trying to hunt her down. It's de Goody. De Goody one-on-one with Harrison. Somehow Harrison brings her down. Is this Canada's opportunity to get back into the match? Tessier. She's stopped. 2 metres away from England's line. A try now would mean everything to the Canadians. It would give them a sniff, a chance of the final. If England can hold, what an opportunity it is for them to cement their place in that final. That looks like it's too close for comfort for England. Canada teasing over the line. Surely it's over. Bookaboom scores. Back in this fixture, and that is so much that the Canadians deserve. They have spent so long down in England territory. It's England 23, Canada 17.
All started for the Bookaboom break in the initial play. So England a little bit broken. They're not sure who they're on, and then a great slight out to inline, and actually here to spot her player, the support in line to go across to de Goody was really, really good, because typically you'd go head down there and you just go for it, but she was already scanning, and then the work off the back of it. really, really well worked try, and England defence are getting a little bit pulled out of shape here, and Canada absolutely exploiting it.
Let's head back to studio, get the thoughts of Katie Daly-McLean. It's a bit tight, Katie. It's a 4-point game.
It really is a bit tight sitting here. We're starting to get a little bit nervous. I mean, Kat touched on it. England are still in control of this. Like you say, I think for us, and especially for me as a fan now, we just don't see England in a game like this. But obviously watching the girls now in the huddle, Emily Scarrett will be laying down the law. They'll know that they need to get hold of possession. They need to play high in Canada's half, because Canada have taken a lot more of the territory. I think that the territory stat will be in Canada's favour. But we're in a 4-point game now, and it's really, really important from an England perspective that England take the next point, because I thought by now, after 68 minutes, almost Canada would be kind of running out of steam as the amateur side, but they're not at all, and that score will really have lifted them.
Change also for England. They have taken off Tatiana Hurd. In her place, they've brought on Holly Aitchison. I think they've used almost the entire bench. I think the only player they haven't brought onto the field yet is Rosie Gallagher, unless I have missed her, but we'll keep an eye out. Shauna Brown certainly is on the field now. Ball goes high into the air from the restart. Canada let the ball bounce. They need to be careful about doing that from a restart, because England are right up into the faces. Karen Paquin has it. One of the players who also plays sevens for Canada. She was at the Olympics in Tokyo. As the ball is on the floor, comes back in the end, taken forward by the fly half Tessier. Huge big hit going in on Tessier. You could hear the go up from the crowd around here at Eden Park. If you're joining us here on 5 Live, it's the Rugby World Cup semi-final. England 23, Canada 19. It's all been about the Canada the last 10 minutes or so, but what have England got this time through? Kildun. Big tackles going in on her, but England down the right end of the field, playing between the 10 and the 22. They've won a penalty as well. It's quite a long way out. It would be within Scarrett's kicking range, but it's the sort of place they might actually look at maybe thinking, should we go back and do a line out? What do you reckon, Kat?
Potentially line out, but they are in the middle of the pitch. I'd go point still, build it, because even if you miss it, they have to kick back to you, so you get another shot. They have gone for that, and I think that is the right decision, because it is 4 points at the minute. You just want to build, you want to get ahead, because Canada have shown they can actually score from nothing. One line break and then they're through.
And it's also significant to say, as much as Emily Scarrett is testing the wind out there, and the wind has slightly died off compared to what it was in the first half of this match. The only reason it's significant where Emily Scarrett is she's got the sun right directly in her eyes. I mean, if I can just bring in Emily Scarrett in studio there, you've done a lot of place kicking. How hard is it when you've just got that sun, and it's starting to lower here in Auckland as well?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the wind is much more of an issue than the sun. I think for Emily Scarrett, obviously the post don't move, hopefully. So for her, it'll just be about our process, because this is a big kick. Looking at this straight on, it's long, it's well within our range. She's kicked very well in this game, and I'm sure she wouldn't have taken that on if she wasn't confident. But yeah, it's not ideal conditions.
Ball goes high into the air, it scudders over, no problem for Emily Scarrett. She's missed a couple today, but most of the time she's been on song. She's got 4 from 6 with the boot, and that's now England 26, Canada 19.
And an important one to take as well, because those are your pressure moments. They're the ones, we've gone for points, we're expecting you to score. It's really close in the semi-final. We didn't realise it was going to be this close, but she nailed it.
Right then. Restart from Canada straight into the hands of Poppy Cleal. Don't forget, coming up, we're going to have that second semi-final between New Zealand and France. If you think this has been close, no one knows what to expect in that one. Kicks off at 6:30 in Auckland as Zoe Harrison kicks the ball into the back of Abby Ward, and that's a mistake that could be costly for England here. The ball is going through the Canadian hands towards the far side. England expected to have it, not be chasing Canada back inside of their own half. Far side of the field, it's been knocked on. They're going to bring it all the way back to outside of the England 22. I'm not sure which side of the field they're going to say knocked it on. We're just looking at Abby Ward's shoulder getting an absolute thumping. It is going to be a Canadian scrum.
Problem is with that, because you see the kick, you see Abby Ward get hit, you sort of chuckle to yourself, and then you're like, oh, now it's going wide and Canada actually might score, because they are so dangerous and they suddenly get it, and the game can swing in that quick of a moment. Scrum's been pretty evenly matched. Canada have got some good ball. Even if they have gone backwards slightly, they do still manage to get the ball out, so they'll be pretty confident here with a good attacking platform. Again, they're right on the edge of the England 22, so territory-wise, they have had a lot.
Yeah, and we can't stress enough that the Canadians, they are an amateur side. Their sevens team, they do get government funding because it's an Olympic sport. But the majority of these women, they are not paid to play their rugby. As Canada get a free kick. Big decision here for Sophie de Goede, decide what her team are going to do. Is she going to go for another scrum? Yes, she is.
I think the amateur point is huge, because we thought, they'll stick with them for 60 minutes, but then obviously the conditioning of a professional side, been professional since 2019, will kick in. But it's actually Canada that are still trying to raise the intensity. They're the ones trying to go. So I don't think fitness an issue in this semi-final for them at all.
Yeah, and it's a Canadian scrum in the middle of the park here. They're inside of the England half, between the 10 and the 22. It's just off centre, slightly towards Cat and I, as they've lined up towards the far side of the field. Ball goes in. It's holding strong by England. They are going to come down this blind side. They're pushing out. They're not going to quite attack it the way we thought they were. Maddie Grant has it, and Claudia McDonald deals with her well. Claudia McDonald back to her feet straight away. Comes around the corner. Fateza has it. They've got a long way to go here, Canada, outside of the English 22. Canada 19, England 26 in the Rugby World Cup semi-final on 5 Live. De Goede manages to get the ball. It's been knocked on by England. Holly Aitchison was there. I think if she'd been alive to it, she'd have been away with it.
I was going to say, actually, that was on for an intercept, and Holly Aitchison's no slouch, so she'd have got that. She'd gone, but I think she was up initially looking for defence, but I think that was on for her to take that.
I think they almost second-guessed herself there, Holly Aitchison. I think she was almost worried that she was going to give a forced knock-on, but it went backwards, so she almost second-guessed herself. She'd have been fine.
Yeah, but there is also that moment, like, if you go for an intercept, you have to get it, because otherwise you're allowing a try straight away. So if you are even in a millimetre of doubt in your mind, don't do it, and that was the right decision, but possibly was on there for her.
Right, the final change then for the Canadians. Sarah Svoboda, she is onto the field, plays her rugby at Loughborough. She's a back rower, so I can't stress you enough, they've gone for seven forwards on their bench and just one back. And we just see there's a little bit of treatment going on the floor there to Brittany Castle, the Ontario player. She's also a firefighter when she's back at home. This is her second Rugby World Cup. As she slowly gets back to her feet, she's going to be okay. The crowd here at Eden Park is really starting to fill out ahead of that second semi-final. If you ever see it on the TV screens, you see they've got these little pom-poms that they swing around. It's called a poi. It's a traditional Maori swing that they put into it. It's very effective when they're all doing it together in the stadium, isn't it?
What I'm enjoying is, even though you don't have a poi, you're acting, you're swinging it.
I'm here in
We've got
commentary.
Sarah in the studio,
yes.
like, swinging it around.
Away.
It's fantastic.
Best I talk about scrums again is what Kat is saying very politely.
Yeah.
Right then.
No, I like the poi chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
73 minutes on the clock. England 26, Canada 19. How tense is this going to get? We've got 6.5 minutes to go. Scrum is solid from both sides. De Goede feeds down the far side of the field. England have it covered for the time being. Strong work by the fly half Tessier, just making sure of things as it goes into contact. England are trying to contest at the breakdown. They want the ball back. It's taken by Fawamba on this occasion. Still outside of the English 22. Canada having to take it into contact. The English defensive line moving up strongly. They've got numbers that they keep on weighing out on that far side for the time being. They're happy to balance towards the left wing for the time being. It's almost like they're trying to catch England off balance. Still Canadian ball. Bookaboom once again. She's on the 15-metre far side of the field. It's Fawamba once again. She's happy to take on ball. England just being careful as they toe that line. Big tackle coming in by Sadia Kabeya. Huge hit by her. She's only come onto the field in the second half. England really testing at the breakdown now. Have they won that ball? No, Canada still have it, but they've lost ground. Fawamba again. She seems to be really happily taking on so much ball. Come on in the second half, into the second row. This time it's Bookaboom, the try scorer from the second half. Canada within 7 points at the moment. England, they are just absorbing tackles. They're being really careful about when they contest the ball as well. They've gone through 11 phases now, Canada, and are still not over into the English 22. Fawamba once again, it's almost like they're trying to wait to see if England give away a penalty, but their discipline has been pretty strong, England. They did have a yellow card in the second half, but that was for infringes at line-out. Finally, they go over into the 22. Fawamba has it. Kat, just tell us how important discipline is for any side at this time.
Huge. And actually England, as you say, have been really, really disciplined under a lot of phases of play. 15 phases of play. England have been defending and they have not given a penalty away.
I do really feel if you look at the territory stats for this game, it would all be in the favour of Canada. England have been really happy for the Canadians to have the ball. They're almost waiting for them to make the mistake. If you ever watch Saracens men in the Premiership, it's a really similar style of how they used to play in previous seasons, perhaps not this year because they've taken it a step on, but it's very similar to watch as the ball comes away this time to Canada. 19 phases still on that 22-metre line, and Sadia Kabir is just ferocious at the breakdown. She really is a force of nature. Comes back towards the near side. Here comes Holly, and England have the ball through Kildun. What a contest it's been. How many phases did Canada go through to get nothing? All they got was a Zoe Harrison kick down the field. The ball is still bouncing. They're having to rush back and chase it nearly on their own 22-metre line. And no one even wants to kick it from Canada. Oh my goodness, they're exhausted. They've got nothing left in the tank. The backs can't believe it. Canada can't exit. They're stuck just outside of their own 22, having pounded and pounded away at the other end of the field. They're going to think, what on earth has just happened? There's bodies still on the ground. They can't get back to their feet. They're that exhausted. And it's all just tiptoeing the line. There goes Leanne Infante. England have got another gear. Here comes Kildun over the halfway. She's waiting for the support. Canadian player flies over the top. Have England lost the ball? England in from the side. It's going to be a Canadian penalty.
We spoke about how good the England discipline has been, and in defence it has, but in that attack there just got across in at the side and then gave the penalty away. But Canada are making really hard work of it, because they got 20 plus phases there. And then what England are doing really, really well is they are so smart in that breakdown. They know when to go for it, they know when to leave it. They absolutely are nailing that.
Well, I feel I should tell you right now that if this match is drawn at full time, we go to extra time, 10 minutes each way, because Canada, they're 7 points away from England. If they get a try and convert it now, that could be well what we're heading towards. The ball goes into the line out. England have it. They're coming away down the near side. Referee's not making a decision. She has blown the whistle. They're saying it's been knocked on.
I don't know what that sign was.
It was a skew throw. She caught it on the outside. The first issue is the throw. She won't come across of it straight.
We're still not sure what decision the referee has given. I can only assume it's going to be an English ball. It's going to be a choice of a line-out or a scrum.
Okay, line-out chosen.
Oh, it has been a choice. I thought she was saying there was no choice because the throw is the issue or something, but no, it has gone.
Let's not lose momentum.
Well, we're pretty good at guessing what the referee's signals are, but that was sort of like a curved hand from side to side, like she was going around the edge of the ball. Almost. Yeah. So hey, but there we go. We play on. Ball into the air. England have it through Aldcroft. Did that go 5 metres? I'm not sure. Referee hasn't seen it. England play on. Comes down towards this near side channel. A little bit too close to the near side whitewash. Referee is happy. And is this England's chance to play their way into the World Cup final? England 26, Canada 19 as we close in on the final minute of this semi-final. Infante is at the back. She's warned to use it. Comes back and away to Harrison. Scarrett is calmly going to take this into contact. She is well marshalled and pushed forward by her fellow backs. And they just need to make some clean pods here, the Red Roses. It's a penalty to them as well. You will never see a group of women wearing white get up from the floor more slowly than this.
Yeah, and that was a silly penalty as well. Just in at the side, I think a desperate attempt because they know the clock's getting away from them. It was Booker Boy that went for it, but it just didn't need to happen. Like, just be patient, because England have made a few handling errors. Be patient, defend well, and then take your shot.
Well, the referee has stopped the clock because she knows exactly what England are doing. She knows the significance of this match, and she knows that England, they're not talking about rugby at all. They're discussing what movie they're going to watch tonight, who's going to wear what on their day off tomorrow. That's what full-time sports people do when they need to wind down a clock, as the ball ends up in the hands of Zoe Harrison. The clock is back on. 29 seconds to go to play themselves into the World Cup final. What have Canada got? Are they going to throw the kitchen sink at this? Because that's all they've got left now. They have turned up in this semi-final. It's been a brilliant fixture, but it's England who've gone for short numbers in the line-out. 10 seconds left to go, waiting for the ball to come in by Davis. They go long towards the back. Ward has it. This needs to be kept tight and clean. Canada can't make any mistakes. There's the hooter. England just need to get this ball off the field of play. Infante has it. Referee nearly gets in the way. Harrison sends it off. That's it. Job done. 1 game to go. England are in the Rugby World Cup final. The final score against Canada in the semi, England 26, Canada 19. Kat Merchant, that was not easy.
What a game. I don't think anybody could have predicted just how close that was, because there were points left out on that pitch for Canada. They could have taken more of their opportunities, but credit to them, an amateur team to make it to the semi-final and to put England within 7 points is just absolutely incredible. But England did what they needed to do. All you've got to do is win a game like that, and actually having a close contest might put them in an even better position running into the final, because they have now been tested.
It was 3 tries for England, but it was 3 tries for Canada. The difference between the two sides, quite simply, the calm goal kicking of Emily Scarratt. How many times have we said that? She might have not had the best game around the park, but certainly when it came for her to do her job by kicking at posts, she did it with aplomb. Final score then here at Eden Park in Auckland. They're through to the World Cup final. It's England 26, Canada 19.